everyone, and welcome to Inside Jacksonville, a production of the University of North Florida's Department of Communication and CW17. I'm Al Huffman.
And I'm Joy Cater. We're here each month with stories about life of our favorite coast, the First Coast.
Today we're diving into Jacksonville and its history that you may or may not know about. We'll also bring you the best ways to keep you and your children's summer fun, educational, and safe. History is all around us, and nowhere is that more evident than at the Jacksonville Historical Society. They house many interesting archives and documents that give meaning and life to past things that might have been forgotten. With time moving faster and faster, it's good to stop and take a look at what came before us. Inside Jacksonville's Will Weber gives us a behind-the-scenes look to how the JHS keeps the past alive.
Built as a hospital 140 years ago, the two-story brick building just outside the heart of downtown has housed victims of the yellow fever, typhoid epidemic, and people displaced by the Great Fire of 1901, playing a prominent role in Jacksonville's history. The building was renovated in 2012, and instead of playing a part in Jacksonville's history, it now holds on to it.
Whether people know it or not, there's great interest in history.
Established in the spring of 1929, the Jacksonville Historical Society is dedicated to protecting and preserving the city's history. Its massive archive fills rooms and has material dating back to the 1800s. Taryn Rodriguez Bodie is at the center of the organization. As an associate director and archivist, Bodie is responsible for systematically organizing the thousands and thousands of archives in the collection's backlog, a tedious task neglected by past directors.
We have been collecting since 1929, but it had never been organized by an archivist, so it was very difficult to use.
But Bodie didn't want to just organize the archives. She wanted to bring them to the 21st century.
What I have been doing in the last 2.5 years is organizing the collection, bring it up to standards, to the archival standards, and using a cataloging software that is used nationally, Past Perfect Museum software.
Past Perfect is an online cataloging system that allows people to search the archives of anything from anywhere. But Bodie's noticed one area of history everybody's interested in.
Our genealogists. And those keep us entertained and in business all the time because it's become very fashionable to look for your family history.
Here at the Jacksonville Historical Society, these boxes and these tags behind me, they're ways for academics and history buffs to relive the past. But for some people, it's a whole lot more personal than that. Meet George Hapsis. He's been helping organize, transcribe, and catalog items at the Historical Society for over 60 years. George was born and raised in Jacksonville, so his work here has a more personal meaning.
They've had a few notable architects in the Jacksonville area that have passed away, and I've known most of those people. Fortunately, some of their work and their collections have come here. What
me and you look at as history, George experienced firsthand. He's seen the city grow and known the people responsible for it.
Some of these people were friends of mine. I've worked for a couple of them.
Whether it's archiving or reminiscing about the past, the Jacksonville Historical Society is a place where people can get lost in history and learn about the past and present to better the future. For Inside Jacksonville, I'm Will Weber.
The Jacksonville Historical Society often has events in the area, and one of their most popular ones is the Gingerbread House Extravaganza, where people recreate historical landmarks out of gingerbread. So put that in your calendars now to attend this holiday season.
Much of Jacksonville's history resides in the architecture that it holds. From the St. James Building to the Florida Theater, Inside Jacksonville's Lauren Erickson takes us on a tour of the city's architectural history.
History can be found all over Jacksonville, but what most people don't realize is that much of it comes from the building's history and architectural style.
In 1901, most of downtown Jacksonville burned down in the third largest city fire in the history of the United States. And so after that, architects and builders and entrepreneurs from all over the country came to Jacksonville to rebuild it. One of those was a talented New York architect named Henry Clutho, who met Frank Lloyd Wright and started building buildings in this prairie style that was championed by Frank Lloyd Wright.
The director of the Old Jacksonville Historical Landmark Commission explains the importance of these buildings.
Well, that's a good thing about Duval County is it's so large and the history is so long that we have styles representing everything from pre-Civil War frame vernacular buildings to grand estates on the river, and I think that's probably what makes particularly the state of Florida, makes Jacksonville so important.
Architecture is one of the most public forms of art. And at the same time, you'd think that something built of stone and steel would be permanent, but architecture is truly one of the most fragile of all the arts. It's something that embodies our history. It shows the aesthetic values that people placed in the places where they lived.
Sandwiched in between Savannah's historical district and the oldest city in America, Jacksonville has a hard time shining a light on the historical buildings. However, Wayne Wood, the founder of Riverside Avondale Preservation Organization, has done his best in saving these buildings. Wood talks about two buildings which he considers a couple of the most monumental buildings in downtown Jacksonville.
The St. James building, which was originally the 9th largest department store in the United States. Later, the department store closed, and our city took it on as its city hall. Florida Theater, built in 1927, is one of the last large remaining movie palaces in Florida, and also one of our architectural gems.
These two men chose jobs that display their passion for preserving the historical buildings of Jacksonville.
So my hope is, and my mission is to help portray and explain and tell stories about our buildings and our city's history so that the younger generations will come along and at least get a glimpse of the importance of that, so that they will take on the challenge of preserving these buildings and carrying on our history for centuries to come.
Our cultural heritage, our architectural heritage of the city, it defines what we are and who we are in a lot of different ways. And once these buildings are gone, then of course they're gone. And it's important to identify them.
Lauren Erickson, Inside Jacksonville.
You can find architectural gems all over Jacksonville. To learn more about these buildings, check out Wayne Wood's book, Jacksonville's Architectural Heritage. Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at just how close Jacksonville was to being America's Hollywood.
We'll also show you a darker side of Jacksonville's history, demented janitors, a principal that ate her students, and more. All coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Welcome back. This month we're taking a look at the history of the city we call home.
Part of that history includes a trip on the scary side. Yes, Jacksonville features a haunted history that can wake you back up in a hurry. I hit the road to find some of these spooky locations. The easiest way to dive into spooky entertainment in Jacksonville is to find a ghost tour, like the ones led by Gary Sass. Tour guides recount several ghost stories, including the dark tale that happened in the alleyway just outside the Florida Theater.
And on this one day, Thomas Hendricks, the head teller, decided he would come outside, smoke a cigarette, and went inside the bank, closed his door on his office, and committed suicide. The bank would never reopen.
Legend has it you can still smell the cigarette smoke to this day, but that might just be the alleyway stench.
Probably the most well-known haunted location in all of Jacksonville is the Annie Lytle School, where legend has it that a principal ate her students and that a janitor dragged students down to the furnace room where he burned them all alive. At least that's how the story goes.
In reality, the construction of the I-10 overpass in 1960 is largely to blame for the school closing down. Urban planner Ennis Davis sets the record straight of the real horrible event that occurred involving Schoolhouse 4's architect, Ridlidge Holmes.
And in 1929, you have the Great Depression. Mr. Holmes was pretty depressed himself. Some unfortunate events that happened to him, and he actually committed suicide. So that's about the most dark thing that has actually been confirmed in terms of being historically accurate. Something left over from his days may be there, but that's like the real part.
With renovations of old downtown landmarks like the Bostwick Building, perhaps there's more potential for future haunting locations.
So it's currently being renovated into a steakhouse, and so we'll see if there's any ghostly steaks flying around in about a year or so.
Jacksonville's past tells us that although silly ghost stories often become urban legend, most of history's darkest secrets are locked away forever. Think you can stomach one of these tours? Call Jacksonville's River City Haunts at 904-827-1845.
When thinking of things that Jacksonville is known for, many things come to mind. Inside Jacksonville's Doug Markowitz takes us on a journey into Jacksonville's past and how it almost became the center of the film industry that Hollywood is today.
Lights, camera, Jacksonville.
The River City is known for a few things: the port, the Jaguars, the jumbo shrimp. But 100 years ago, it was known for one thing and one thing only: movies.
Thanks to its sunny climate and variety of locations, the First Coast was considered an ideal retreat for filmmakers avoiding cold weather and industry bigwigs such as Thomas Edison. Several years before the first Hollywood studio opened, the Arlington neighborhood was an epicenter of the silent film industry. From 1912 to 1915, more films were coming from the winter filmmaking capital of the world than from Los Angeles. Devin Stewart is an historian and an enthusiastic supporter of Jacksonville's silent film legacy. She's also the co-chair of Norman Studios Silent Film Museum, one of the last remnants of Jacksonville's filmmaking past.
Production companies just flooded in. At our height back then, we had probably around a little over 30.
But the boom didn't last. Conservative, church-going residents of Jacksonville didn't take kindly to the creative crowd disturbing the peace, and after a Main Street riot scene went wrong, Mayor John W. Martin ordered the studios out.
There's debate as to whether Jacksonville could have, continued on and become, the Hollywood that we know today.
But there was one filmmaker who was audacious enough to stick around. His name was Richard Norman, and he was a white man making movies with an all-black cast.
And this was a new genre of film out that was called race films, and they were films that were made by and for black audiences.
Norman was part of a wave of filmmakers making movies that showed African Americans as more than slaves. His films showed colored people as pilots, adventurers, and heroes, and in heavily segregated Northeast Florida, this wasn't just new, it was dangerous.
One of the darker parts of Jacksonville was that it was a Klan stronghold back in this time, and so that's something that kind of amazes me, that Mr. Norman was able to do these race films and have his friends and employees live here.
Today, the 5-building studio complex functions as a museum. Stewart's organization has been working on restoring the rundown parts of the property, as well as encouraging film culture in Jacksonville by holding screenings, classes, and even a summer camp.
We also want to help bring up the next generations of filmmakers.
For Inside Jacksonville, I'm Doug Markowitz.
Norman Studios, Inc. is the nonprofit organization that is working to restore the Norman Laboratories back to its past glory. They are looking for volunteers to not only give donations, but to help collect and file artifacts for the museum. To find out how you can help, visit normanstudios.org.
Still ahead, many see St. Augustine and Jacksonville as hubs for tourism, but what can residents do over the summer?
And after the break, studies show that students don't retain everything they learned during the school year when summer kicks in. We've got some fun and educational ways to keep your children engaged when they're not in school.
Welcome back. Earlier, we learned of Jacksonville's history, but now we're going to talk about all the fun the city has to offer.
When people first visit the First Coast, they think of St. Augustine as the go-to tourism spot. Inside Jacksonville's Ryan Hennessy shows us a few places awaiting your visit this summer.
As long as you're going towards the ocean, we're the first right after you cross the Intercoastal Waterway.
But she's not talking about going to the beach.
Summer's a lot of fun at Adventure Landing. Obviously, the water park is a huge draw. It gets so hot in Jacksonville, and it's one of the best places to cool off. You don't have to worry about sharks or jellyfish, or even sands.
When it's a nice day out, Adventure Landing has got extreme slides, and also some smaller slides to cool visitors off. It's a great place to take a break from the heat, but visitors can also step on the dry side of the park.
When you get sick of the water or you need a break, you come inside.
For activities like go-karts, laser tags, miniature golf, the large arcade, batting cages, and even gator feeding.
We have a small child's roller coaster called the Wacky Worm, which has a surprising kick to it, actually.
But adults can enjoy themselves as much as kids.
I'm relaxing and enjoying it with my children and grandchildren.
I hydro half pipe, which is very terrifying. A lot of people are afraid to go down it.
I don't like heights. And that's pretty far up there.
The park is a family-friendly place to lounge out and enjoy the sun.
Whether you're floating down the lazy river or going down the thrilling half pipe, Adventure Landing is the place for you. Another fun place is the Jacksonville Zoo. Let's float on down and check it out.
We love the Jacksonville Zoo!
Lions, tigers, elephants, zebras, and more. The Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens is 103 years old with close to 2,400 animals.
We can please pretty much anyone, from little kids who are of course going to love running around and seeing our animals, to moms. I guarantee your toddler is going to take a nap after they come here.
Well, I really like it all. I don't really have a favorite.
And if you're not here for the animals, you can come see over 1,000 species of plants in their botanical gardens.
Photography enthusiasts, always something cool to snap.
And if you just want to burn off some calories, take a stroll through the zoo. It's close to a 3-mile walk if you hit every nook and cranny.
Oh, I'm having a lot of fun.
We're constantly improving and growing. There's always something new to see.
Ryan Hennessy, Inside Jacksonville.
Adventure Landing and the Jacksonville Zoo hold many events throughout the year, but check out some of their summer activities at jacksonville-beach.adventurelanding.com and jacksonvillezoo.org.
Summer's upon us, folks, and we know what that means. School's out! And while for some that means hitting the beach and sleeping in, others may find the break takes a surprising toll on the upcoming school year. Inside Jacksonville's Caitlin Kitchens explored summer programs through Fun for First Coast Kids that can help battle summer learning loss.
Studies have shown that kids who don't keep their brain engaged over the summer could be affected by what is called summer learning loss. Whether it's with physical activity or just old-fashioned reading, keeping your child's brain engaged is important to ensure that they don't fall behind. Maureen Mian, Director of Child Development Center at UNF, tells us about summer learning loss and how it can affect the kids.
I feel that there's a lot of difference between the children who stay for the summer rather than the ones who leave after, the school year ends in June.
Students spend up to the first 6 weeks upon returning to school relearning old material to make up for information they may not have retained over summer.
There's been a lot of demand from parents who feel like there needs to be a lot of focus on academics during the summer.
Luckily, Jacksonville's Fun for First Coast Kids offers information about several summer programs in the area that can help prevent your child from experiencing summer learning loss.
We teamed up with Rebounders of Jacksonville, Bach to Rock, and the Jacksonville Science Festival to learn about how they can help your child stay on track for the next school year.
What the kids learned at school, we want them to retain that knowledge. And we actually have hands-on activities as well as games and sports that they play daily.
The program offers kids a chance to learn about science and conduct experiments, as well as touch on other academic subjects. And if your child just has some pent-up energy that needs to be released, Rebounders of Jacksonville is your saving grace. They have a variety of activities that get your kid moving.
Bowling, laser maze, rock walls, our trampolines, and our ninja warrior course.
Studies have shown that increased aerobic activity can help with verbal memory and learning, and increase math and test scores. Even activities such as climbing the 8-foot rock wall can boost a child's confidence to reach goals.
For example, the warp wall, a lot of kids can't get up that 8-foot wall. Trying day after day after day, and then finally seeing them achieve that is a real goal that I like to see.
Music is also a useful tool when it comes to engaging the brain. It involves math and critical thinking, as well as physical activity. We visited the Jacksonville Beach Music School to find out more about their summer programs.
We have rock band, we have glee club, we have early childhood rock city camps, we even have recording arts camps.
Kids in the program will be exposed to all kinds of instruments, and they'll begin to learn the foundations of music. At the end of each week, students will perform for their parents.
The rock bands and glee club, typically in a week, they can learn 2 to 3 songs. They'll perform those for you.
Music has been said to help raise your IQ, as well as help with math and patterns. Kids also gain more self-confidence.
It's really cool because you see all the kids come in on Monday morning. They've never met each other. They seem a little skeptical, a little shy, and by Friday, they're all on stage rocking out together, and it's just the coolest thing.
Caitlin Kitchens, Inside Jacksonville.
Avoid losing what your child spent an entire school year learning. Sign them up for one of the many camps around town and give them a summer they won't forget.
Summer is here, and people take this time of year to enjoy the sun and the warm weather. Although it's nice to tan, sun exposure and water activities do come with some dangers. Inside Jacksonville's Brenda Zelaya sets you straight when it comes to summer safety.
Advanced registered nurse practitioner with background in dermatology, Amy Howell shares some tips on how to protect your skin.
You need to find shade. You need to use protective skin clothing. We definitely need to use protective sunscreen, broad spectrum sunscreen with SPF of 30 or higher, and stay out of the sun as much as possible between the hours of 10 and 2.
If you get a sunburn and your skin peels, that means there's tissue damage. Studies show that each major sunburn increases your risk of melanoma.
Skin cancer is the fastest growing cancer, not just in Florida, but in the world. Most other cancers are, going down. The rates of skin cancer are actually going up.
Skin protection is an essential procedure for a safe summer, but water safety is also a key factor to keep in mind.
The aquatics director at the New Winston YMCA, Cindy Partee, told us how the YMCA is working to prevent water-related accidents.
So some really simple steps are to take responsibility at the waterfront to make sure that you keep an eye on them and not just read a book or take a nap, and that all people are responsible for children and others in the pool, that everybody should be watching.
The YMCA offers safety around water classes to kids as young as 6 months. Through these classes, they hope to reduce the number of drownings, which is the #1 cause of accidental death in children.
I think some of the biggest mistakes made regarding water safety is just assuming that you're safe. I mean, even an Olympian can drown.
So while you're having fun in the sun this summer, remember to slap on sunscreen and be aware of yourself and your kids in the water. Brenda Zelaya, Inside Jacksonville.
While you're out there sweating or swimming, experts say to use enough sunscreen to fill a shot glass. Also check out the YMCA, which offers free swim lessons for both children and adults.
That's a wrap for this edition of Inside Jacksonville.
If you missed anything from today's program, just visit our website, unftv.com, and click on Inside Jacksonville. You'll find expanded versions of our stories, photos, interviews, and other extras. That's unftv.com, Inside Jacksonville.
You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Inside Jacksonville. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time, Inside Jacksonville.